Welcome to Philosophy in Pajamas podcast. We have been looking at this really fascinating, almost philosophical retrospective from a writer reflecting on his creative output in 2025. And it's not your usual year-end list of accomplishments.
Not at all. There's this one line, this hook from Rushik that you just can't ignore.
Right. His whole year wasn't about writing better. It was about writing truer.
And that distinction is just, it's everything, isn't it? Because we're all geared to think about optimization, better SEO, better grammar, better numbers.
Better engagement.
Exactly. But to change the goal to truer, that flips the whole thing on its head. It's a pivot from external performance to deep internal alignment. It's all about authenticity.
And that's what we want to get into today. How did he actually do that? How do you prioritize truth over polish? And how did that change his relationship with consistency?
And the big one, how do you measure value when you're deliberately ignoring the dopamine hits from claps and reads?
For you, our listener, this should really frame how you think about any kind of creative output. It's not just about a series of finished products.
It's a living record. He mentioned that scrolling through his own work feels like seeing different versions of himself. Some pieces are heavy with confusion, others are light with clarity.
And some just needed a bit of humor to get through. Articles carrying different weights. I love that. It turns writing from a skill into a kind of emotional documentation.
So that leads to the big question. If the goal isn't success, what's the core motivation? Why even show up to the blank page?
Well, he's very clear about it. He wrote, and this is a direct quote, to survive specific thoughts.
Wow. Not to impress, not to teach, but to survive. The page became a place to sit with questions instead of, rushing to find the easy answer.
Which is so relatable for anyone who feels overwhelmed by information. Writing stops being about creating content and starts being about filtering the chaos inside your own head.
He said it stopped being a skill and became a place I kept returning to when I needed to make sense of being human.
And that idea just completely redefined consistency, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because so many of us struggle with that. We treat it like discipline.
Like a chore, a checkbox you have to tick. Discipline always feels like it's coming from the outside, like a burden.
But he reframes it. Consistency isn't discipline.
It's devotion.
Yes, devotion.
And devotion is a willing return. It's something you do for your own well-being. He wasn't showing up because of a deadline or because he thought he had something grand to say.
He showed up because, as he put it, writing is how I listen to myself.
That's a huge shift in perspective. It's fundamentally an act of self-care.
So if you make that internal switch, what happens to the external platform, the place where you share the work?
Yeah.
Does it stay a performance stage?
It can't. It stopped being a platform and became, in his words, a room where I could speak without rehearsing. The internal need for truth demanded an external space that welcomed raw thought.
And that's how we get Philosophy in Pajamas.
Yeah.
The name just says it all. It's this low-stakes, high-depth approach.
It's built on the belief that thought need not be polished to be profound.
Sort of the democratization of reflection,
Absolutely. We think profound ideas happen in libraries or lecture halls, but really, they hit you while sitting on the edge of a bed. It makes deep thinking feel approachable, not intimidating.
And it wasn't just for him. Creating that space was like opening a window and inviting others to breathe, too. The community wasn't built on perfection. It was built on honesty that invites others to be honest, too.
Which brings up a really important point for anyone dealing with complexity. What do you do with contradictions? Because when you commit to being truer, things don't resolve neatly.
Right.
Rushik said his stories were his most truthful works, not his best, because they held everything at once. Uncertainty, affection, frustration, all unresolved.
And that is such a key insight, because life rarely resolves itself neatly. High-level thinking doesn't either. So why should our analysis pretend it does?
Exactly. Accepting contradiction is a sign of intellectual honesty. You're serving the complexity of the topic, not your own need for a simple narrative.
Okay, so after all that, we have to talk about the elephant in the room.
The metrics.
The dashboard, the claps, the reads, the follows. Every creator feels that pull. So how did he resist it?
It seems like he just acknowledged them and moved on. He understood they measure attention, not real value.
So what was the real value?
The real reach wasn't the numbers on a screen. It was the messages from readers who said they felt less alone after reading something I almost did not publish.
No, that's it, isn't it? That connection. That's the validation that actually matters. It moves the work from being about ego to being about service.
And that leads right into how he thought about vulnerability.
Which changed completely for him in 2025.
Yeah. I think we all start with vulnerability feeling like exposure, like you're standing naked in front of a crowd waiting for judgment.
For sure. It's terrifying.
But for him, it stopped feeling like exposure and started feeling like accuracy.
Accuracy. What does that mean in practice?
It means you write about the doubt, the longing, the loss, not because you want sympathy, but because those experiences deserved language. If the truest thing you felt was uncertainty, then writing about it is the most accurate thing you can do.
It's almost an ethical commitment to the truth of your own experience.
Exactly.
But that sounds heavy. I mean, where does the lightness come from? How do you balance that?
Humor. That's where humor came in. And not as a decoration or a little break from the seriousness.
It was perspective.
It was perspective. He says that sometimes laughter is the most accurate response to complexity. It stops the truth from becoming just, overwhelmingly bleak.
That's brilliant. It just shatters the myth that deep thinking has to be somber. Wit and reflection aren't opposites, they're partners.
And this all comes from respecting the process. He even wrote about the act of writing about patience, letting ideas mature, resisting that urge to rush to a conclusion.
Which is a lesson that goes way beyond the page, right?
Oh,
It's how
yeah.
you manage any complex project in life.
And when you look at the whole year, the change in his writing voice wasn't some loud, dramatic transformation. It was subtle
He said it grew more slowly, more deliberate.
and less eager to explain everything.
I love that. Leaving space for the reader, space for their own interpretation, to meet the work halfway. That feels like growth that's deeper, not just louder.
And all of that led to what he calls the greatest achievement of the year. He didn't abandon himself on the page.
He didn't chase trends. He didn't write clickbait.
No, and that refusal to dilute his voice gave him something much steadier than attention. It gave him integrity.
So the big lesson here seems to be that meaning isn't something you find. It's something you build, sentence by sentence. The easy days count, but maybe the hard days, the days sentences fought back, counted more.
For sure, and looking ahead to 2026, his intentions are all about continuing that. He wants to write from curiosity, not certainty.
He wants to protect that space where thought meets feeling, unencumbered. And I think this is the most important one for all of us. Never confuse output with worth.
His hope is that his words remain in places where readers feel welcome, not instructed, which just perfectly captures the whole spirit of what he's doing.
It really is a mirror for all of us. The goal should be to maximize the truth we share, not the praise we receive.
So we'll leave you with this to think about. What part of your life, your job, a hobby, maybe even just how you talk to people, are you trying so hard to make better, when the real goal, the necessary goal, should be to make it truer?
That is a wonderful question to sit with this week. Thank you so much for joining us for this reflection on a year of, well, profound creative growth.
You can follow Rushik and his continued reflections on medium.com Risha where he shares this exact philosophy.
And please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be back soon with another exploration of the things that matter.